Time to move on to textures and material. I cleaned up my package first of all. So I got rid of your new package name with all the random meshes here that I imported during the first part. And I cleaned it up, place all the meshes that I need, which is the landscape, the foliage, the road, road 2, and the rock. That's what I need at minimal. Of course, there's a landscape collision and all that, but I'm just moving on with this. And I placed it in an asset development 1 asset whip to mimic the original package that I made. Then we should import the textures, which we haven't done yet. So we can press import and select them. So you're looking at, you can just take all the TGA files you can find in here. Import them all. I'm going to import them in something called asset development 1 textures whip. Group textures. And then you can just press OK to all. We can edit the properties in a bit. Save the package right away. I'll simply save it in the root of the content folder. There we go. I will load the package. And then we should in particularly pay attention to the normal map. So we have one single normal map in here. All the textures you import, you can pretty much import as is. If you double click a texture, you will get this window, by the way. And here you can see the same import settings basically, and settings in general that you had in the import window. So most textures you can import as is. And this is also something we will get back to in the second video. But except for normal map, that one should be imported as a normal map. And you can see here it says compression settings default. That should be a normal map instead. It will amplify the normals a little bit. It will make them a bit more pronounced than if you don't do that. So I'm going to change that, and then it's going to automatically re-import it, but with a normal map compression. That should be done now. Again, there's a couple more settings we can mess with, but as an introduction, I'm going to leave it at that and continue with this in the second video. So that's it. Save the package, and then we will be pretty much be done with this package from here on. Then we can move on to the asset whip, and we can make our first material in here. We can make a material by simply right-clicking somewhere in the empty space in between the assets, and then go for new material, or you can press at the bottom left new, and then make a material like that. You type in the name here, and from the list you select material. Or what I'm going to do is slightly easier, is I'm going to select the texture that I'm going to work with, and the first one we're going to do is actually a simple Unreal Tournament material. I'm going to take one of the materials from UDK itself, just as a first basic test on doing a simple diffuse specular normal map material. So in fact, actually, yes, let's make it manually. Let's just right click here, new material. I'm going to place it in a group called materials. And the name is going to be a material example. I usually call things mat_mat at the end, but that's just me. You can do as you wish. Okay. Then you'll get this material thing. Save the package right away. It automatically pops up this window, which is a material editor. If it did not, you can simply double click it. I'm going to move that out of the way for a moment, and I'm first going to find the textures to use in the example. In the Unreal Tournament 3 folder, I'm looking for something called, just look for the word recycle 06B. So I'm going to type that at the top where you can filter for things. And then if you type in recycle 06B, we'll find these textures. I think this is a good first start case, because we have a nice simple metallic diffuse normal map. We have an alpha available, or some kind of mask rather, and we have a specular available. So let's bring these into the material. You can simply drag them from here to the material window, like that, or you can select them, then go to the material window, hold T on the keyboard, T from texture, click somewhere, and you get it as well. Or you could select a texture, then return to the material window, find a texture sample in the list over here, drag that in, and I'm bringing in the mask as well. Or lastly, well, you could right click as well and then do texture sample in there, which is the same as that list, just a different menu. There we go. So now we have 4 different textures in here. Material editor is one of the most powerful parts of Unreal. you have a gigantic amount of power available in this tool. And that's really something we're going to focus on for the next part of the video. It's all going to be exclusively materials. And you're going to see how much power you really have available messing with these expressions. So every one of these things is called an expression. It's basically something that does something. Here's a list of expressions you have available. So these are all blocks you can add. You could just add all these kind of things by simply dragging them in. And each of them does something specific, obviously. It's a very long list actually, but to my experience you'd end up not using, say 80-85% of this is very rarely used. It's very specific, most of this. The real things you're using a lot is say 10-15 of these or expressions you really use on a daily basis. So the list is a bit overwhelming, but it's not actually that hard as it looks. Either way, the block at the end, this is the output basically. So if you connect it to these different blocks, it will show up as that. So if I connect this, clicking the black box connected to diffuse, it will show up as diffuse. Here we have an example, cube or plane or whatever shape you have. You can change the primitive shape here of the preview mesh. So I'll usually put it to a box. And we can do the same with a normal map, connect that to normal. You can move things if you just select them and then hold Control and left click drag them. So left click drag them to move them. You can disconnect things. If I connected the wrong one, say transmission mask, you can disconnect it by alt clicking one of the two connections, so the destination or the beginning, like that. So I've connected the diffuse, specular, normal, and now I have the most simple material I can get, pretty much.